Hello, my name is Galina Gurdina. I live in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I am a victim of psychotronic mind control effects. Today, I would like to make a statement regarding a post of Karen Stewart that she made on her Facebook page, Perps and Nutcases. I'm tortured with insomnia. I was stimulated until like 5 or maybe 6 a.m. this morning. So I do not feel good, and I will read this statement. Dear all, government agent Karen Stewart posted a new slander about me and Ramola on her Facebook page, Perps and Nutcases, after my interview with Ramola was published on the 17th of May 2020. It was published on Ramola YouTube channel. I have already reported Facebook that Stewart made false news in this post and considered to report harassment to Facebook if Stewart doesn't remove this lie. Please ignore all slander and provocations made by government agents Karen Stewart and Julianne McKinney. Ignore all their psychological diagnoses all these psychological diagnoses that Stewart liked to hang on everybody. She uses almost the same labels every time. Narcissist, psycho, imbecile, idiot, pathological liar, obsessed, egomaniac, petty, useless attention seeker, has nothing to offer, bully. Using the same diagnosis practically for everybody proves that she talks about herself. All these words describe best of all Stewart herself. Stewart posted text messages between her and another person who claims that he or she is my friend. First of all, if all the exchange is not concocted by Stewart on her own, and this another person really exists, I'm sure that he or she is a government agent but not a real targeted individual and cannot be my friend. This unknown person claims that I and my husband were KGB agents. I became a defector who left Russia for Britain with my son. This unknown author claims that I came to Britain as a tourist and asked there for asylum, was interrogated by British and Canadian intelligences. They promised to help me stay in Britain. That's why I shared with them KGB secrets. After that, cunning and treacherous British intelligence communicated KGB and informed them about my betrayal and sent me to Canada, from Britain to Canada, in order to get rid of me. I would like to comment this absolute delirium. First of all, I have never ever had any connections with any secret service in the world because of my deep ideological convictions. I didn't reveal any state or security secrets. It was just impossible. I didn't have access to them, and I didn't know any. I divorced, and by the way, I have documents. I have still my passport with a landing record that states clearly that I arrived at Canada in 2004 from Russia, not from Britain. I divorced with my husband more than 30 years ago, and he died many years ago. He was not a KGB agent when we were married as well. I have never ever been to Britain, never crossed its border. Unfortunately, I have never been interrogated by British or Canadian intelligence. Unfortunately, because I have a lot of questions for them and I would like to be interrogated. Stewart and this person must seek help of a psychiatrist as soon as possible, if it is not too late for them. or write detective novels if this is not their delirium but their fantasies. Next, after that, this unknown person, if he or she exists, of course, texts that we met 3 times, and on the 3rd time I acted towards one male targeted individual like a snob, and this unknown author had to discipline me. As I can remember, I never put down or suppressed any of TIs with whom I met, but there were some moments when I had to stop people from being rude, mocking, and ridiculing other targeted individuals. I will tell about these situations later. Next, after that, Stewart, as a highly educated and experienced psychiatrist, forms in this exchange of text messages a psychiatric diagnosis for me that I have developed a severe personality disorder bordering on mental illness, if not crossing that line. I have already mentioned what psychiatric diagnosis Stewart makes for other TIs on her page and Facebook page and in her emails. I would like to repeat that her diagnoses are almost the same for everybody: bully, narcissist, and all of them actually describe, best of all, herself. They all are about Stewart. Next, this unknown person makes idiotic statement in these text messages that I started asking him or her to borrow me money for decorations. And at that very moment, when I was soliciting money from this person, I informed him or her that I had already borrowed money from other people, but didn't pay it back. So at that moment, when I was trying to borrow money from this unknown author, I confessed to him that I had already borrowed money from other people and did not repay. I do not know how to comment these statements that I tried to borrow money from for decorations, that I informed TIs about this purpose, that I borrowed but did not pay money back, since such things have never ever happened in my life. I borrowed money from people but always paid back, sometimes repaid more with interest rates, and sometimes even more than that. This person lies in these text messages that I live on welfare, lies because I had to quit my jobs because of enormous attacks on me, and I survive on disability, not welfare. After that, he or she, this unknown author, lied about me and my son. But I do not want and I cannot comment on this. I would like to say to you that I never discuss my family, including my son, with anybody, except the fact that I am absolutely sure that my son was under the same mind control attacks as I was when we lived together. Next, this person guesses that I am bitter because I live alone. I do not feel bitter because I live alone, since I do not need any partners at the moment. I feel bitter for absolutely other reasons. I feel bitter because I am constantly 24/7 tortured with electromagnetic effects, deprived of basic human rights and freedoms, deprived of job, profession, family, money, property, transformed into a severely disabled person. I am 60 years old, disabled lady, and want to assure you that all people in my situation would have other priorities than love and sex. And my priorities are survival, stop of mind control attacks upon me, and restoring of my health. Next, this unknown person lies that I declared myself a leader of Canadian targeted individuals, but he or she cut me off and disciplined one more time that I cannot elect myself as a leader. And of course it never ever happened, you know. And a lot of other BS, like voice talking to me is the voice of my ex-husband. Actually, I divorced my ex-husband 33 years ago, and I cannot say that I even remember his voice. This unknown person claims that he or she repeats and spreads all this slander about me among other targeted individuals. I demanded Stewart to name this person. I demanded to provide us with the name of this person who allegedly wrote this bullshit to NSA agent Stewart. But Stewart never said it to us. It means that most likely Stewart invented all this lie and organized these slanderous messages by herself. Or it may be that other government agents helped her concoct this thread of lies, but not real targeted individuals for sure. I have a guess that this person who slandered me in these text messages that were posted on Facebook of Stewart perps and nutcases may be Marika Bandera. First name Marica, last name Bandera, B-A-N-D-E-R-A. But I am not sure 100%, since there are many discrepancies between what this unknown liar wrote to Stewart and what actually happened many years ago. But there is one thing that makes me think that it was Bandera. This unknown person writes in the messages that I told other people in our group that she was an agent working for secret police in her native country. The only person about whom I really told other targeted individuals that she said to me that she had worked in secret police in her native country was Marika Bandera. So I would like to tell a bit more what I still remember about her. Marika Bandera was a member of our organization of victims of psychotronic mind control weapons and was excluded from it because of her behavior as a perpetrator and police agent. She found me on the internet around 2010 and asked for meetings. I met her many times, much more than 3 times. She confessed to me that she had worked in secret. She wasn't actually an agent. She was like, I don't know, an officer, worker. She worked in this secret police in her native country in Eastern Europe, somewhere in Slovakia or Slovenia, most likely Slovakia. On the 30th of September 2010, she emailed me her address and phone number and asked to register her in the list of members of our organization. I still keep this email letter from her. After that, she took part in several protests in Toronto, and I have even, it seems to me, a Facebook conversation where she asked me to help another targeted individual apply for a permit to protest at Queen's Park in Toronto in 2011. She was not very helpful during these several protests in Toronto. She was reluctant to keep posters or distribute flyers. Just stood near us or among us as if she was a member of public who was interested in our activities. In my opinion, she tried to make such an impression. I met with other targeted individuals and her, it's true. There was several group meetings. But it was me who disciplined her about her mocking and ridiculing attitude towards other victims. I found name of one such female targeted individual who was homeless and lived in her car at that time. It seems to me that her name was Maria S. I don't want to tell her full last name, but I still keep list of people who were part of our group earlier, and I found this name, and it seems to me that her name was Maria S. This Maria, she looked exhausted and was poorly dressed. It's true. She was homeless, and she didn't have opportunity and place to take care of herself. I tried to persuade her to apply for a subsidized apartment, but you cannot imagine face of Bandera, how she looked at this homeless TI, how rude, contemptuous and sniffy she was. So it was me who had to discipline Marica after meeting with this targeted individual. I had to discipline, and I had to say to her that she cannot put down other victims. She wrote to me emails and in Facebook conversations, and called other real targeted individuals goofs, loads of crap, phonies. This is her real face. This is real face of Marika Bandera and her real attitude towards other people. I can prove all my words. I have never ever tried to borrow money from Bandera for any purposes, including decorations. I remember that we discussed buying a desk and a chair for my apartment in 2010 or 2011 when she came to me. It happened once. Because I didn't have them, desk and chair at that time. I sat on my floor in front of a computer and experienced pain in spine and legs. In my spine, back and legs. Bandera tried to convince me not to use my credit card for this purpose, buying of chair and desk, because I would have to pay back with interest rates. But I disagreed with her and used my credit card for this purpose. But we discussed borrowing money from my credit card, not hers. 2-3 years after our common meetings and public protests in Toronto, Bandera started harassment of me. She started endless fights and arguments, but I somehow tried to tolerate it. Until she called me one evening and accused that I breached her privacy. I didn't understand her at first and asked to explain what she meant. And she answered me that she found her name in our letter petition to the Canadian government somewhere on the internet. I didn't know what to answer and became speechless for a moment. But after 2 or 3 seconds, I reminded her that I notified and still notify in writing everybody in our group that we go public, that the letter petition with our names, email addresses and cities is sent or was sent and is sent all over the world. I found a letter that I sent to people in our group with her email address, with such a notification. I sent this letter on the 13th of May 2011. I wrote in this letter, "Dear all, I send you our petition to the Canadian government one more time. Please read it. I remind you that we send it with all your requisites all over the world. If you do not want me to put your full name, address and other requisites in the petition, inform me and I will remove your name from our organization." This letter sent to everybody, including Bandera. It was the last fight and the last forced accusation from Bandera. I was unable to tolerate more of her slander and excluded her from our group forever. If this unknown author of text messages to Stewart that Kara posted on her Facebook page is really Marika Bandera, you can see that she is extremely dangerous perpetrator, provocateur, con artist and slanderer. Of course, she wasn't the only one agent and perpetrator whom I excluded from our organization. Please, be cautious, be alert, do not contact these government agents, since they are professional provocateurs who distort situations, pervert words, slander innocent targeted individuals, and all those who try to help us. Thank you for your support. All the best. Bye.